One fine morning, as the waters of the great lake shimmered and trembled at the lightest touch of the breeze, and the siala trees swayed gently in the warm air, the harvest having been safely gathered into the granaries, a young man arrived in Chief Odero's compound. As politeness dictated, he stood outside the central hut, which was obviously the duol, the personal hut of the chief, and waited to be invited inside. Even without his black and white colobus monkey headdress, he stood head and shoulders above most men. He was obviously a man of Nyadhi, that is, a man of great style, for he had a spear in one hand, a shield in the other, and splashes of white war paint across his body. His face was ritually tattooed, his head set proudly on his shoulders, and he wore only a tiny piece of leopard skin which barely reached his mid-thigh, from under which two powerful legs protruded. On his right was a wizened old man, and on his left a young man who closely resembled him, as well as 6 other men. Odero's eldest son Okumo was sent outside to inquire into the nature of their business. The wizened old man spoke. "We have come to see Odero, the son of the great chief Gogni Adinda, for the purpose of betrothing our family to his, for even as far as Sakwa, we have heard of the beauty and the spirit of his eldest daughter. We would have come earlier had we not been mourning our chief Kembo Kagina, who died last moon, but we came as soon as we could, for my nephew Owuor Kembo, now chief in his father's place, urgently seeks a wife. It is unthinkable that a chief should be unmarried, a situation which has risen only because of the sudden death of his father, the young chief himself being only 20 seasons old." Now that lengthy speech had 2 main purposes: to impress the father and his sons, for a girl's father was all-powerful and capable of turning away the prospective suitors at their first meeting, and secondly, to indicate to the great chief that Owuor Kembo, though not such a great chief, was wifeless, and therefore whoever he married would hold the envious position of Mikai, the first wife, whose house would hold the center stage, directly facing the gate, and to whom all other wives and also husband would defer. Rumor had it that Odero Gogni had set his heart not only on his daughter marrying a chief, but also that she be the Mikai of such a chief. Okumu went back into his father's Simba and repeated the message. Odero came out and bid the visitors enter. Kongo was brought, and as the council of Yodongo trooped in one by one, the pot of tangy brew was passed from one hand to another to be sipped through a long reed like straw after first offering libation to Were. Pleasant questions were asked about the state of the harvest and the cattle, and no one had ever seen the great chief being so nice to any suitor, including some wealthy ones who had offered to pay double the bride price. And now, how may I ask, is the savannah country of Sakwa? Were the rains adequate and the harvest plentiful? I have heard that a strange malady had killed many cattle in that place. Owuor Kembo's uncle was a seasoned broker who not only knew chick, but knew the loopholes and the traps that might be set for an unwary suitor. They answered wisely. The rains were adequate, and the food in the granary will feed us well after the next harvest. The rumor you heard was true, but Were, praise be upon his name, protected most of our cattle, and besides, the dead chief had only 2 sons and many daughters who will continue to bring in more wealth. At this, Chief Odero could not help being somewhat envious, as he had only 8 daughters to his 21 sons. He had never quite mastered the art of siring daughters. He decided there and then he would not make things easy for these arrogant upstarts. After all, of late he had to go easy on his wife marrying spree because he felt a little alarmed at the number of his sons. His father, Gognimboye, had vast wealth and only 6 sons. So rich was he, in fact, that he had paid dowry for 2 wives in as many seasons for his elder son Odero, chief-to-be, before his 22nd season. As the brood continued to flow, Odero called the council of Yodongo outside for consultation. "My fathers," he began, "this is my eldest daughter. As you know, I have dispatched 12 suitors, but I like this group of people, as the young man is obviously of good stock and his uncle a good spokesman. However, I would like to trim their arrogance a bit. You, Akoko Lima, have been my spokesperson all along, and you will remain so. Set the bride price at 30 head. 30 head? Exclaimed Alo in disbelief. Yes, 30 head, declared the uncompromising chief. But that is 2.5 times the usual bride price. Even for Akoko, that is too much. Let them show us that my daughter is not going to starve in that. Let them show us that my daughter is not going to starve in that wasteland they call a home. They trooped back into the hut and the negotiation began in earnest. Brothers, people of Sakwa, we are pleased to welcome you to Imbo. It is customary, because of the good dark between us, for you to marry our daughters and we yours. We are therefore more than neighbors. We have great worth between us because of the intermingling of blood, though this has not occurred between our lines. So there is no danger of brother marrying a sister, a great taboo. Since you are our brothers, we will not make things difficult for you." Here he stopped to take a sip of Congo, and you could have heard the ants talk. So great was the silence. However, nobody was fooled by his sweet words. He continued enjoying immensely the tension he was creating. "Our daughter, Adoyo Obanda, is a great beauty whose assets have been praised and sung by many a Nyatiti singer from here to Chumbukombit, from Sakwa to Lokanam. She is as fleet as a gazelle into the sayings of our and her flying feet have been incorporated into the sayings of our village, so that the mothers sending their daughters on errands tell them to run like Adoyo of the flying feet. She had been carefully brought up and has been taught all the requirements of chick. She is a very apt pupil and will therefore not bring shame and ruin to her husband by improper conduct. Her antecedents are peerless, for she can trace her bloodline clear to Ramogi, our great father, and her blood is pure, for we have always taken care to marry correctly. She is also the eldest daughter of our great chief, a man whose fame is known throughout this land. After careful consultation, we have therefore decided that 30 head of cattle should be the proper bride price." Was that an inaudible gasp from someone at the back? Chief Owuor Kembo signaled to his uncle, and the old man spoke. "Brothers, people of Imbo, we have listened with great care to what you have to say. Since the contract of marriage is a matter of great import, we wish to beg leave to consult with each other outside before we return our verdict." "Feel free to do so," Alo said magnanimously. They moved some distance away, and Akoko, watching from her mother's kitchen, thought amusedly to herself, "I should ask father to give me a piece of land to settle on, because at this rate I shall never leave his house." Among the suitors was controlled pandemonium, controlled because an Owuor, a son-in-law, always had to comport himself with great dignity, even if escaping from a house on fire when in the presence of his in-laws, especially the Maro, the mother-in-law, whom they were sure was watching from some chink in a wall. 30 head? Exclaimed Otieno, Owuor's younger brother. "That is enough to marry 3 wives. Women are all the same, Owuor. Let's get out of here." "I think he is right. Why should these people rip us off like this? Who do they think they are? They can keep their daughter. Let's be off, chief." The conversation went on in that vein, while the young chief remained entirely silent. A rather irrelevant thought came to his head, and the corner of his mouth twitched a little. His Jawangyo, the spy he had sent to inspect the girl, had told him that she had the most beautiful neck, long with lovely creases crossing their way round it. She also had a long hooked navel on which 2 whole rings of beads could fit. these aspects of feminine beauty much valued among the people. My father, my brothers, I think you are greatly mistaken. Not all women are the same. This woman is going to be my Mikai, not just any wife. Besides, I have set my heart on marrying her. We shall do as they say. What? Are you crazy? Not even a bargain? Please, be careful how you address the chief, reprimanded an old man. Owuor, my son, I see what you mean. An Or's honor is a great thing, and if your in-laws despise you, it is something that is very difficult to live down. Let us shock them by accepting their offer without bargaining. That way, your name will be repeated from mouth to mouth for years to come. You will be Owuor Kembo, a man of style, the famous Owuor who paid up without demur. Let's go in. He led the way, and everybody had to follow him, including those who thought that both he and his nephew had been bewitched by these Himbo people. Brothers, people of Himbo, Odero, great chief, son of Gogni, we are aware of the honor you have accorded us, having listened to our suit with patience. May Uere shower you with many blessings. My nephew and I have consulted, and we have decided that on the 14th day of the next moon, 30 head of cattle will be driven by our young men into your homestead so that marriage may take place. Odero looked confused for a moment, having expected a spirited fight to reduce the number to at least 20 head. However, he was not a great chief for nothing. He rose beautifully to the occasion. After all, style had been met with style. Nyadhi with Nyadhi. Aye, I have accepted your suit. May the young girl be called so that the people of Sakwa may see what a jewel we are giving them. Giving us? Thought Otieno in annoyance. At this rate, there will be no cattle left for me to pay the bride price with. In a little while, Akoko walked in the company of her mother. Traditionally, the girl at this point should have been the picture of demure, shyness, her eyes fixed firmly on the floor, her hands held together in front of her mouth. Not Akoko. She walked in, steps measured, head held high, hands at her sides, her head swiveled around